All right, folks, just like the genie says, your wish is my command. And the reason why I say that is I get a lot of folks that are reaching out to me wanting me to cover a topic that is trending and going viral all across the internet. We're talking about Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. You name the platform, there's a viral video or trending viral video about the subject of the rising cost of the RV lifestyle. Now, there are a lot of truths to these videos, but there's also a lot of exaggerations. So we're going to basically cover and encompass all of that here in this podcast episode. So bear with me, folks. It's going to be long, it's going to be boring, but we got to talk about it, okay? Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. Now, before I launch into this, two quick announcements. Announcement number one is when someone comes into my comment section that is in the RV industry, whether it's on the manufacturing side, whether it's a corporate RV dealership YouTuber, whether it's a dealer, I take whatever they say with a grain of salt. And the reason why is because there are folks that sit in their $200,000 cars with their $10 million in the bank, calling people blowhards, calling people ridiculous names while they're sitting on top of their penthouse. I don't necessarily believe people like that when they make comments in people's videos, because a lot of times, if you look at the history, and I'm not just talking about one person, I'm talking about the history of anybody that gets involved in comments like that, writes big long books in comment sections. Generally, no one's going to read it all the way through, and if they do, a lot of it more likely smells like, excuse my language, but smells like bullshit, right? So the reality is, when I come on here and I talk about anything dealing with rumors, facts, financing, manufacturers possibly selling, manufacturers closing down, dealerships closing down, dealerships selling, I'm getting it from legit sources, okay? Whether they're right or not, they've been right pretty close to 90% of the time. When it comes to Rev Group selling, I knew about that 6 months ago when they were selling lands. So again, who am I going to believe? Right? So just kind of give you that. Number two is we have a cultish kind of segment of our industry. Okay? And it's the people that are so sold on a look or a trend that even if it's bad for them, they will defend it till the ends of the earth. And one of the examples, and this actually is legitimately part of what we're going to talk about today. One of those is lithium batteries are under $300. So there's a lot of big trending topics about, well, I'm not spending thousands of dollars on a lithium battery when I can buy one for my RV for $250. And no, it works better than anything I've ever used, even if it fails on them, even if it has a history of failing on them. So we have to kind of be careful as a community, as an industry, that we don't hop on these bandwagons of, oh my God, everything's perfect, nothing's ever wrong. We have to be careful with that, because there's a balance between, okay, folks, it's a great looking unit, but it doesn't mean something won't go wrong. Versus everything's a piece of crap, everything's a pile of crap, everything's great, everything's horrible, Lippert does all this crappy stuff. I mean, we have to be careful about what we intake from the industry and what we intake from social media, okay? I try to be the balance. I try to give you the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay? Now, let's dive into this. So the rising cost of RV camping, and what people are referring to is not necessarily the cost of the unit itself, not the cost of the fifth wheel or the travel trailer. That's been covered a lot over the last 2 years because we kind of saw a trend where politically Donald Trump was on his way to being elected. He was yelling and screaming across all the, and by the way, this is not political. So if you start getting political in the comments, I'm going to freaking just eject you out of here because this has nothing to do with politics itself. This has to do with economics. If someone's going to impose a tariff, Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, it obviously is going to affect the price of goods and services that surrounds that particular product. Okay. So we've already talked and covered a lot of that. In fact, if you look at the 2026 year models, it looks like they kind of kept it between 5 and 11% price increase, depending on the manufacturer, right? So some manufacturers stayed put because they already raised the price in the previous year model in anticipation of the tariff increase. And then you had folks that did it very slowly. And then you had folks that just bam, hit you like a ton of bricks with it, right? So everybody kind of went through that already. What they're referring to is there are campgrounds across the United States and Canada that are full hookup, full plug-in full plug-in sites that have pretty much become the nightly rate of like a Hampton Inn hotel. Is this 100% accurate? Yes and no. So yes, for some of the most popular resorts, the most popular plug-in camping sites in the country are obviously, they know that they have a backlog of people. They have a high demand for their resort, for their campground. So they obviously have started to increase their nightly rate and their weekly rate. And so that people will say, well, that's just greedy. So I'm going to tell you that there might be some greed involved. I'm not going to say there's not greed involved. But we also have to realize that when you start having a backlog, let's say you have a 2-year backlog of something, okay? You're going to start raising your price to start eliminating the people that cancel. So I'll give you a great example. I was told this once by a guy that actually owns a car rental place. He rents supercars. Now I know it's a completely different industry, guys. It's just kind of an example, okay? There was a point in time where he actually had a business model where he was renting supercars, your Ferraris, your Lamborghinis, for half the price of his competitor. And he didn't understand why his competitor didn't like lower his price, why he was charging so much. And all of a sudden he had this backlog of people. He was 2 years, almost 2.5 years booked. And he had to just go find more cars, find more cars. And then he finally figured it out. He's like, oh my God. Because what ended up happening was that backlog for 2 years that he was depending on started dropping off. People started canceling. And then he couldn't replace that reservation. So it became a problem because when it's like, for example, if somebody tells you, hey, I'm going to give you Disneyland tickets for $5 a piece. Okay, but you got to give me $1 today. And you give them the dollar, and let's say there's 5 tickets, it's $5, and something comes up like a Caribbean cruise that you could take for free during that same week you have to go to Disneyland, you're going to kind of let the Disneyland tickets fade away and just go over to the Caribbean cruise because you're like, $5, I don't need to deal with that, and off you go. So you're starting to see a trend where some of these very popular resorts are partially greed, partially they're trying to stop the backlog. It's so popular that you have to raise your price. It's like a lot of these guys that want courses by these famous real estate guys. There were people who are charging like $100, $150 for like an 8-hour course, and they would be backlogged booked, but only half the people would show up. But when they raise their price to like $1,000 or $1,500, now they got a packed room. So it's a psychological thing. It's not just about rising or raising prices randomly because you think you can. There's a reason behind it beyond greed. It's the same thing when it comes to parts. Look, parts are getting more and more expensive. We've noticed that here at the dealership. Hitches have gone up. Even the price to buy something as simple as a toilet kit or a shower hose, or I'm sorry, a shower head, as simple as buying a sewer hose. Those costs have gone up because of tariffs. Those costs and prices have gone up because we buy the majority of our stuff overseas. And even though there is large tariffs on a lot of these countries and a lot of the goods that we import, it's still cheaper to take the tariff than it does to manufacture it in the United States. Now, it is up to you what your own political and economic opinions are. We're not here to debate that. Not one bit. We are stating facts. The price of food is astronomical compared to 2019. It's still hyperinflated. The price of water is hyperinflated. So how do we, as a RV community, how do we help cut the costs down? Well, number one is we need to stop worrying about going to these popular famous resorts that YouTubers put up. So one of our problems, and it's not a problem that was created on purpose. It was a problem that was created because someone had a really good idea. You had a handful of brand ambassadors for Grand Design, Brinkley, Keystone, Forest River, etc. And these brand ambassadors went traveling the country. And when they went traveling the country, they made a lot of these resorts super popular because they put them on their YouTube channel as, let's say, top 5 best resorts to visit, top 5 places to go on the East Coast, top 10 places to go on the West Coast. So it made these places extremely popular where people are like, oh, I want to go do that. Oh, I want to go do that. I want to go to Big Sur. I want to go to, XY Mountain. I want to go up to this resort in the Appalachians. Everybody in their has this bucket list that they're starting to scratch off because they're doing their homework. They're like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do this. And so those lists created a lot of this spike. And it wasn't done intentionally, and we shouldn't blame these folks because it's done all across the spectrum of everything we do on social media. What it needs to do is we need to be smarter about when to visit those places. So if we want to visit a place that is super popular and everybody's going to go to in the summer, why not go in the late fall or early spring while the kids are still in school? Why not explore places just outside of there? What I always say to folks is Joshua Tree National Park. There are tons of dry camping and boondock camping off the grid. You could, there's a lot of places across the country where during the spring and fall, the weather is absolutely gorgeous. You don't need an air conditioner. You don't need a microwave. Maybe you need a USB port, maybe a small inverter to charge some of your stuff, an inverter maybe to plug in for your coffee maker or your blender, whatever the case may be. The majority of what you're going to do is cooking outside. So cooking outside and not worrying about having $25,000 worth of equipment to run your AC for 4 hours and not spending a huge amount of money on an expensive generator. Be smarter about where you're going, more boondocking, more off the grid type of style camping, or just places that don't have full hookups. You can always drive to the places you want to visit. Now that will help cut the costs down. I'll give you an example. Best example I can give you, okay? Bishop, California, one of my favorite places to visit and camp. You can find RV campsites with no hookups up in the mountains on Bishop Creek on North Lake, on the South Fork. You can find all kinds of places on Intake 2 for less than $30 a night. But if you go down into the 3 resorts in Bishop, June Lake, and Big Pine, you're going to spend close to $120 a night during peak season. Now remember, the biggest difference is during peak season, it's super hot in the Mojave Desert. So everybody's running their AC, so of course the freaking thing's going to be more expensive. If you're going to go visit Death Valley, maybe you want to see Death Valley, don't go straight during the winter when it's the most popular because the weather's gorgeous. Maybe go in the late fall. Maybe go in the late spring before the heat gets there. So that way the resorts are like, oh yeah, we'll take you for $50 or $40. Don't be afraid to also negotiate with some of the fees. If you see the park's a little empty, maybe you can get somebody to, hey, could I get a little discount? Could I get an extra night free? Is there maybe something you guys can throw in? Maybe you guys can throw in some firewood. Don't be afraid to ask. I have asked a lot of campgrounds that were completely empty over my lifetime, hey, can I get a bundle of firewood for free since you guys are not, doing, oh yeah, here, boom, and throw them in the back of the truck. So there's a lot of things that you could do to do that. The other thing that really could help cut the cost down is stop waiting till last minute to do the basic maintenance on your RV. I don't care if you have a 1995 Comfort fifth wheel or a 2026 Allegro bus. By the way, I went from like something worth $100 to something worth $500,000. So anything within that spectrum, stop waiting last minute to do your basic maintenance. Stop not doing your basic maintenance. A tube of silicone, a tube of Dicor, paying a technician to do, appliance services and roof resealing, it will save you thousands of dollars. Tripping over dollars to try to save pennies is ridiculous. The price of parts is astronomical, and that's very true. So the best way is do your freaking maintenance. It's crazy that a lot of you just don't do shit to your coach. It's crazy. How can you guys expect an RV of any kind, a travel trailer, fifth wheel toiler, how can you freaking expect it to run good when you don't do the maintenance? That's like, hey, let's not do the oil change to the Honda Civic because they run forever, but then get pissed off because the motor blows. I mean, we got to pay attention to those things. That saves money right there. And lastly, and here's my last tip, and I'm going to do another video probably this weekend that I'll also hopefully tag in here as a part 2, because I don't want to run this thing like 50 minutes or an hour. The last thing I would say is join Flying Pilot and Love's type of gas stations. Join their programs. They have programs where you can get 5-10 cents off of gas, and you can dump your RV for free. They have dump stations all across the country that a lot of them are free. And they also have water fill up for free. These are free things that can help you save the cost of your actual RV trip. The other thing in conjunction with that is there's a lot of things that they will throw out there that are clearance items, discount stuff, maybe hamburger patties, free showers. Maybe you're sick and tired of the shower inside. Maybe you've built up enough points you can, or a truck driver is in there. You can get free showers. And those showers inside those Loves and Pilots are a lot better than what you're getting inside your RV. So you got to start thinking kind of outside the box. And my next episode, we're going to talk more about thinking outside of the box when it comes to that. So just remember, RV stands for Toolkit and Sense of Humor, folks.